The truth is viral.
Today, Young Dolph, whose real name is Adolph Robert Thornton Jr., was
So Glock and Jook on the same plane in November.
In November, same month, Dolph get killed.
This before or after?
Before
Okay.
Dolph get killed, and I hate to see it, or whatever, but it is what it is. But he spit in Jook's face.
Oh, shut the front door.
Yeah, he spit in Jook's face, and
What if I told you the very person riding with Young Dolph, the one posting emotional tributes after he died, the one the streets looked at like his right-hand man? What if that person unknowingly became one of the main reasons Dolph ended up in a casket? Not because he pulled the trigger, not because he called a hit, but because of one disrespectful move, one act of straight violation that allegedly sparked a $100,000 bounty that eventually cost Memphis its king. That's the claim Govan Hernandez has been putting out there, and fans have been digging hard into the evidence. And y'all, what they've uncovered got the internet going crazy right now. We're talking about Key Glock, Dolph's cousin. Dolph's artist, Dolph's protege. The young dude, Dolph, invested everything into the one he brought into Paper Route Empire, and helped turn into one of Memphis's most respected names in the game. And according to Govan, one reckless move by Glock may have been what got Big Jook so heated, so personally offended, that he allegedly put bounties on everybody repping Paper Route Empire, starting with Dolph himself. Stay with me till the end of this video because we're breaking down all of it. The full beef timeline, the courtroom testimony, the leaked paperwork, and the explosive allegations that got the hip-hop world asking if Key Glock's actions played a role in one of rap's most tragic losses ever. Yo, what's good, fam? Welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, we break down the real stories behind the headlines. We go deeper than the blogs, deeper than the gossip. Today, we're diving into some of the wildest allegations to come out of the Young Dolph murder case, and connecting dots nobody else is really talking about. Make sure you subscribed and hit that notification bell because this type of content disappears quick. Let's get into it. Before we even touch what Govan said, we gotta set the foundation for people who haven't been following this case, because if you don't understand the full situation between Paper Route Empire and Collective Music Group in Memphis, you're gonna miss how explosive this claim really is. November 17th, 2021. That's the day hip-hop changed forever. Young Dolph, born Adolph Robert Thornton Jr., walked into Makeda's homemade butter cookies in Memphis, Tennessee. He was back in his hometown, doing what he always did, giving back to his people. He was there for a Thanksgiving turkey giveaway, because that's the kind of man Dolph was, a community figure, a self-made millionaire who never forgot where he came from. A man who came out the roughest parts of Memphis and turned pain into platinum plaques and charity drives. He was bigger than rap. He was a symbol. He never made it back out that cookie shop. Two men hopped out of a white Mercedes-Benz and opened fire, hitting Dolph around 20 times, according to the medical examiner's report. The hip-hop world was crushed. Memphis was grieving. And from that moment, the search for justice started. A search that would eventually pull labels, courtrooms, street politics, and now shocking new claims into the spotlight.
today. Young Dolph, whose real name is Adolph Robert Thornton Jr., was reportedly buying cookies at this bakery in his hometown when someone drove up and shot him. He was expected to give out turkeys for Thanksgiving on Friday. The county commissioner called his death gut-wrenching.
Now, before y'all start saying this is just another internet rumor, let me make something clear. The claims Govan Hernandez has been making didn't come out of thin air. They connect directly to testimony that was given under oath in an actual courtroom. And when you line up those court documents with what Govan is saying about Key Glock, it paints a picture that's darker, messier, and way more heartbreaking than most people understand. But this is where it gets serious. Let me give y'all the full breakdown from the start. To understand what Govan is claiming, you gotta go back to 2014, because this story didn't begin with a shooting. It started with a handshake that never happened. Young Dolph was coming up. He was dropping mixtapes, building his name independently, doing everything his own way. And Yo Gotti, the king of CMG, one of Memphis's most powerful label bosses, wanted him. Gotti offered Dolph a deal to sign with Collective Music Group. And Dolph, in a move that took way more guts than people realized at the time, said no. Flat out. Dolph went on radio stations, did interviews, and made it clear he was going to be his own man. He built Paper Route Empire from the ground up. That decision earned him respect from both the streets and the industry, but it also created a very powerful enemy. See, in Memphis hip-hop, it wasn't only about music. It was about territory, loyalty, and power. And the fact Dolph chose independence instead of aligning with CMG was looked at by some like a direct statement. Then Dolph dropped his debut album and called it King of Memphis, a title Yo Gotti himself had been claiming for years. That wasn't by accident. That was a message. By 2016, the tension started spilling out publicly. Is greater than, is greater than, is greater than, is greater than. Dolph jumped on Twitter calling Gotti out, saying somebody who used to be his #1 fan and wanted to sign him had turned into his biggest hater. CMG artist Black Youngsta entered the mix, pulling up to Dolph's neighborhood with his crew making threats. Youngsta posted videos online saying he'd slap Dolph if he ever saw him. He was riding through Dolph's hood flexing. Things were getting real in Memphis fast. Then 2017 came and everything escalated to another level. Dolph released Play Wit Yo, a direct diss aimed at Yo Gotti. 2 weeks later, he dropped the visual for the track, featuring a Gotti lookalike. The very next day, Dolph's bulletproof SUV got shot over 100 times in Charlotte, North Carolina. 100 shots. The only reason he survived was because of the armored truck. Is greater than, is greater than, is greater than, is greater than. That incident directly inspired one of his biggest songs, 100 Shots. And just to show you the type of person Dolph was, instead of hiding after somebody shot at him over 100 times, he made a hit record out of it and kept pushing. Black Youngsta was later linked to the vehicle used in that Charlotte shooting, though he claimed the van had been stolen. He turned himself into authorities, but in the end, he wasn't convicted. Later that same year, Dolph got shot again. This time, outside a hotel in Hollywood, California. A hotel where Yo Gotti's entourage was also staying.
And I never had no budget cause I got it up.
The LAPD now wants to talk with rapper Yo Gotti following a shooting in front of Lowe's Hotel in Hollywood.
The individual you've mentioned has been possibly identified as being involved in what took place earlier. To what degree, we have no idea at this point.
100 shots.
Another rapper, Young Dolph, in critical condition, shot several times in the body, and police say they have hotel security video they're now looking over.
In the video, an individual produces a gun, a suspect, and he fires toward the individual who was shot.
Detectives looking into the possibility of bad blood between rival rappers. Several months ago in North Carolina, Young Dolph's SUV was shot at 100 times, but he wasn't in it. Witnesses heard the shots here in Hollywood, and nearby security video captured a person running from an SUV.
Corey McClendon, a known Gotti affiliate, was arrested near the scene but was never officially charged. Let that really sink in. This man survived 2 separate attempts on his life before 2021 even happened. He still had 3 old bullets inside his body when he died. Memphis was turning into a war zone, and Dolph was right in the middle of it all. Staying independent, staying defiant, staying alive until he couldn't anymore. Now, most casual fans know Yo Gotti, but the person who allegedly became the most dangerous figure behind the scenes in this whole story was Gotti's older brother Anthony Big Jook Mims. Big Jook wasn't just Gotti's brother, he was heavily involved in CMG operations, handling talent, management, and the business side of things. He publicly called himself Jook the Boss. He was at concerts, events, video shoots. He was active in the culture. He had real influence behind the scenes, and according to prosecutors who laid out their case in multiple trials, he was the man who allegedly placed a $100,000 bounty on Young Dolph's head. And here's something important to understand about Big Jook. This became personal for him. The beef between PRE and CMG wasn't just label competition. Dolph's diss tracks weren't aimed at random people. They were directed straight at Gotti, at CMG, at the people running that organization. And when you're the brother of the man getting publicly embarrassed and songs going gold and platinum, is greater than is greater than is greater than is greater than, that hits different. That's your family name getting dragged. That's your brother being called out in front of millions of people. For somebody like Big Jook, who was deeply tied to the CMG brand and the Mims family reputation, every diss track Dolph released was another log thrown on the fire. Not just Dolph either. Court documents that leaked online and spread everywhere revealed what looked like a full hit list tied to Big Jook targeting several Paper Route Empire members. According to those alleged documents, the bounties were $100,000 on Young Dolph, $50,000 on Key Glock, is greater than is greater than is greater than is greater than, $50,000 on Paper Route Woo, $20,000 on Snoop Bands, and $5,000 on Big Moochie Grape. When those numbers hit, the internet fans were shocked. Everybody online was saying protect Key Glock at all costs, because if those documents are legit, Glock wasn't only mourning his cousin, he had a price on his head too. Now this is where things get real spicy, and where Govan Hernandez enters the picture with a claim that has people seriously shaken up. Govan Hernandez has been very vocal about the Young Dolph situation and has been making claims that go way deeper than what we've heard in court. And one of the most explosive things he said, the thing currently blowing up comment sections and group chats, is that Key Glock spit in Big Jook's face. Fam, you heard that right? Spit in his face. Now, for anybody who doesn't understand how serious that is in street culture, let me slow it down. Spitting on somebody is one of the deepest forms of disrespect possible. It's not just an insult, it's a statement. It's saying, I don't fear you, I don't respect you, and I don't care what happens after. It's a physical violation, an act of dominance and disrespect that goes straight to a man's ego. In the streets, your reputation is everything. Your name is your currency. And if somebody spits on you in front of witnesses and you don't react, your name is done. So when Govan claims that Glock did this to Big Jook, a man with power, money, and connections, you gotta understand what that could have meant on the street level. That's not something a man in Big Jook's position just forgets about. According to Govan, this incident, Glock allegedly spitting in Big Jook's face is what set everything else into motion. The idea being that Big Jook, a powerful guy with resources and connections, got so enraged by that disrespect that it pushed the CMG versus PRE beef from rap rivalry into something much more deadly. And, if Govan's claim is true, then that one act of disrespect allegedly became the thing that sent Big Jook over the edge, contributing to the bounties placed on PRE members, and ultimately helping set the stage for what happened to Dolph. Now, and this part matters, Glock has not publicly responded to this claim. And to be fair, Govan's accusations are still just that, accusations. They are not proven facts, and we gotta keep it real about that. But here's why people are taking it seriously. The bigger context of what actually came out in court supports the idea that the CMG versus PRE conflict was deeply personal, rooted in disrespect on both sides, and that Big Jook's alleged motives weren't only about rap music. This wasn't just diss songs. Prosecutors themselves argued that Big Jook's alleged motive came from personal anger, revenge over diss tracks, over Dolph's defiance, over years of disrespect aimed at the CMG brand and the Mims family name. So, when you add Govan's claim about Glock into all that, it becomes a totally different type of story. It starts feeling less like rap beef and more like a calculated, deeply personal vendetta one, with consequences that stretched way beyond just Dolph. Let's get into what was actually established on the record, because this is where the facts begin supporting a narrative that lines up with a lot of what Govan has been saying. 3 people went to trial connected to Young Dolph's murder. Justin Johnson's stage name Straight Drop was the first to face trial, and in 2024, he was convicted of first-degree murder and sentenced to life plus 35 years. He was one of the 2 gunmen who jumped out of that white Mercedes-Benz. An aspiring rapper himself, Johnson was described in court as somebody hungry for money and opportunity, and prosecutors said Hernandez Govan saw that hunger and used it. The second shooter was Cornelius Smith Jr. Is greater than? Is greater than? Is greater than? Is greater than? Smith did something unusual. He cooperated with prosecutors, admitted what he did, and became the key witness against both Johnson and the alleged mastermind Hernandez Govan. Smith testified in detail about how the whole operation allegedly came together, and his testimony painted a disturbing and organized picture of how planned out this whole thing was. According to Smith's testimony, it was Hernandez Govan who linked him up with Justin Johnson. It was Govan who allegedly told him about the existing bounties on Paper Route Empire members. Smith said he didn't know anything about hits on PRE until Govan brought him into it. Then, Govan allegedly introduced Smith to Big Jook himself during a meeting where Govan reportedly presented Smith as one of the people willing to carry out the hit. Smith further testified that Big Jook was the one who allegedly put up the $100,000 bounty on Dolph, along with smaller bounties on other PRE members. He said Govan planned to keep $10,000 for setting everything up. Each shooter was supposed to get $40,000. Smith said he only ended up receiving $800 before his arrest in January 2022. $800. That's what they paid him for murdering one of the greatest independent rappers to ever do it. After Smith got arrested, his lawyer reached out to Big Jook's attorney and received somewhere between $38,000 and $50,000 in cash. Smith said he didn't know exactly where the money came from, but the fact it came through Big Jook's legal team spoke volumes. That's not random. That's not charity. That's money moving in a very specific direction for a very specific reason. And the details from the actual day Dolph died are heartbreaking. Smith testified that Govan told him and Johnson that Dolph would be in Memphis for the Thanksgiving turkey giveaway. That was their opening. They actually tried to catch Dolph the day before on November 16th after hearing he was at a gas station in Memphis. They pulled up, but Dolph had already left. The next day, November 17th, they got their chance at Makeda's. Smith also testified that they had even shown up armed to Dolph's PRE turkey drive before the cookie shop shooting, but he got second thoughts and the attack was called off. They were really willing to shoot up a turkey drive, a charity event where Dolph was feeding families in his own community. That tells you everything about how cold this whole operation allegedly was and how detached from humanity the people behind it had become. Now let's talk about Key Glock specifically, because before we go further, y'all gotta understand who this man is and what he meant to Dolph, because this ain't just some random name in a story. This is a real person whose life was tied to Dolph's in a way deeper than music. Key Glock, born Marquise Cathay, was discovered by Dolph and signed to Paper Route Empire. Dolph didn't just sign him either. He mentored him, traveled with him, made records with him, and spent years helping turn Glock into one of the hottest names in Memphis rap. They were cousins by blood and brothers by choice. Their collab album, Dumb and Dumber, became a fan favorite because of how naturally they worked together. Glock wasn't just another artist on Dolph's label. He was the future of PRE, the one Dolph trusted most to carry the legacy forward. So when Dolph died, Glock didn't just lose a business partner. He lost a piece of himself. His grief was public and raw. He dropped music that sounded like open wounds over beats. The pain in his voice on those songs wasn't acting. That was a young man trying to deal with the worst loss of his life, and fans stood behind him because they could feel every word, which is exactly why Govin's claim hit people so hard, because if Key Glock's alleged disrespect toward Big Jook really was the thing that pushed this situation over the edge, then the grief Glock has been carrying may be layered with something way more complicated than just loss. Whether he even knows the full weight of what Govin is accusing him of, only he can answer that. Now let's talk about what all this means in the bigger picture. The third man charged, Hernandez Govin, who prosecutors called the alleged mastermind behind the entire operation, went to trial in August 2025, and after only 3 hours of deliberation, the jury found him not guilty on every count. Key Glock, Dolph's cousin and closest creative partner, reacted publicly by posting "My city failed," a statement that captured the frustration of everybody who felt justice still wasn't served. Let that really sink in. The man prosecutors described as the architect of the murder plot walked free. The man who allegedly linked the shooters together, provided guns, took a cut of the blood money, and directed them toward Dolph's location, walked out that courtroom and hugged his attorney. Young Dolph's family is still waiting on the full picture of justice, and right now the streets are more frustrated than ever. And that's exactly why Govin's claims matter so much in the public conversation. Because the courts failed to convict the alleged mastermind, people are looking at every possible angle trying to understand how all this happened. And Govin's accusation that Key Glock's disrespect toward Big Jook helped spark all of this is the kind of claim the community can't just ignore, especially when it's coming from somebody claiming to have inside knowledge about how these events played out. Now, this isn't about simply blaming Key Glock. This is about understanding the full chain of events. The chain that started with a rejected record deal in 2014, then years of diss tracks and shootings, leading to an alleged personal insult that Govin says pushed Big Jook past the point of no return, leading to a $100,000 bounty, leading to November 17th, 2021, leading to Makeda's homemade butter cookies. Here's another thing people aren't talking about enough. If those leaked bounty papers are real, Key Glock allegedly had a $50,000 price on his own head this entire time. While he was recording music, performing publicly mourning Dolph, he was allegedly also being hunted. And the fact that Govin is suggesting his own actions may have helped cause those bounties to be placed in the first place, that's a level of irony and tragedy that's honestly hard to even process. Think about what that means. This young man lost his cousin, his mentor, the man who helped build him from the ground up. He was publicly broken over it. His music after Dolph's death was packed with raw, unfiltered pain. His tribute performances had people crying. He became one of the main faces of the mourning around Dolph's death, and the entire time, allegedly, he was also a target. So when Govin comes out saying Key Glock's actions toward Big Jook helped create the atmosphere that led to all this, it adds another painful layer, because if any of that is true, Key Glock didn't just lose Dolph. He may have unintentionally helped set off the chain of events that took his cousin's life, while also putting his own life in danger at the exact same time. That's tragedy, on a level way beyond music. That's the kind of weight most people will never understand carrying. So where does everything stand right now? Let's really break it down. Big Jook, the man prosecutors claimed was behind the whole operation, is dead. He was shot and killed outside a restaurant in Memphis in January 2024. His murder is still unsolved today. He was never officially charged with anything tied to Dolph's death while he was alive. The man who allegedly put the money on the table left this world without ever sitting in front of a jury, without ever having to face Dolph's family, without ever being legally held accountable for anything connected to November. Justin Johnson is in prison, serving life plus 35 years. He's never getting out. Cornelius Smith, the cooperating witness, still hasn't been sentenced. His cooperation bought him some time, but he still faces murder charges. His story still isn't finished. Hernandez Govin walked free, acquitted a free man. And Young Dolph's family, his life partner Mia J., his children, his sister who FaceTimed him the day before he was killed, they're still waiting for something that actually feels like complete justice. Mia J. said after Justin Johnson's conviction that the verdict restored some faith in the system, but Govan's acquittal had to tear those wounds open all over again because half justice still feels incomplete. The real thing keeping people awake at night is whether we'll ever get full accountability. One shooter is locked away for life. One alleged mastermind walked free. The man, allegedly at the very top of the order, died in the streets before ever seeing a courtroom. And now, Govan is making claims that pull Key Glock, one of hip-hop's most respected figures, into a conversation he's never had to publicly respond to. At the end of the day, the story of Young Dolph's death isn't just about Memphis. It's not only about rap beef either. It's about how street politics, personal pride, and escalating disrespect can spiral so far out of control that people end up dead families, end up grieving forever, and everybody involved ends up trapped in courtrooms and trauma that never really leaves. Young Dolph built something real. He built Paper Route Empire from nothing. He stayed independent when major labels kept knocking at the door. He survived shooting's actual gunfire and still kept moving. He gave back to his city with turkeys, scholarships, presents. He was a father, a partner, a cousin. The kind of person Memphis doesn't produce too often, and now that he's gone, that hole is permanent. And what makes this whole thing even sadder is the fact Dolph saw it coming. This wasn't somebody clueless to the idea that people wanted him dead. He survived it before. He wore bulletproof vests. He drove armored trucks. He literally named an album Bulletproof in response to attempts on his life. He understood the environment around him, and he moved accordingly. But on November 17th, he was in his own city, feeding his people, doing what good men do. And even with all that preparation and protection, it still wasn't enough to save him from a plan that had already been in motion long before that day. That's the part Govan's allegations force people to sit with, because if the spit that allegedly landed on Big Jook's face really was the final trigger, then the machine that led to Young Dolph's death may have been set in motion by somebody who never imagined the consequences would become this devastating. Not some rival executive in a boardroom, not a sworn enemy, but his own cousin. Somebody he trusted with his name, his label, and his legacy. We want to hear from y'all. Do you think Govan Hernandez's claims carry weight? Do you believe Key Glock's alleged actions toward Big Jook played a role in escalating the situation that eventually took Dolph's life? Or do you think Govan is stretching the truth for attention and clout? Drop your thoughts in the comments and let the community speak on it. And click the video on screen for more deep dives just like this one, because we're only getting started. Long live Dolph. Paper Route forever.